Welcome in, everybody, to the flagship podcast recap of a 38-24 victory by the Texas Longhorns tonight at DKR in the first round of the college football playoff in a victory over 12th-seeded Clemson. I am Chip Brown of Horns247.com, joined as always by my esteemed colleague and proud Tampa Catholic graduate, the one and only Eric Henry. And Eric, Texas got off to a fast start. Quinn Ewers was on point, 11 of 14 passing in the first half, including a 19-yard touchdown pass to Gunner Helm as Texas took a 28-10 lead. And then some failed fourth down attempts and an inability to score after having first and goal from the 5 ended up costing Texas, allowing Clemson to get back into the game. Suddenly a 31-10 lead became a 31-24 lead after back-to-back touchdown drives led by Cade Klubnik, the Austin Westlake quarterback, returning home and lighting it up in that second half, Eric. But Texas holds on with a goal line stand from its defense and another big-time hit from Michael Taff on fourth down with just more than a minute to play.
It dropped you?
Yeah.
It's your Wi-Fi. Because I'm still going. All right, we're going to get Chip Brown back in here in just a second. Chip is going to hop back in the stream here. As Chip was saying, just kind of piggyback off of where he left off here. Mentioned that 38-24 win by Texas, so much of it spearheaded by the offense, but also some impact plays by the defense going against a hometown kid in Cade Klubnik, the Austin Westlake native, come back home. Had a heck of a performance. I go and take a look at his numbers here. He went, as I pull up Cade Klubnik's numbers here, he went 26 of 43 for 333, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. But as Chip, to kind of piggyback off what he was saying there, talk about Michael Taff, his former Westlake Chaps teammate, making a big impact stop there on the late fourth down, jarring the ball loose, which helped seal the victory there for Texas. Again, that is the magic of live, doing a live stream here. Chip is going to hop back in here in just a second. The Wi-Fi here at DKR Texas-Memorial Stadium can be a little bit hit or miss. But let me go ahead and start with my impact player, what I just wrote about over on the side on Horns247.com, Jaden Blue. And I know Chip would agree with me once we get him back on the screen here that it's my opinion, guys, that this Texas offense, while yes, certainly very lethal, as Chip is hopping back on here right now. So we're going to add him to the stage. See, you are back. I'll quickly finish this thought and pass back to you here. I think it's just the Wi-Fi here. And the DKR might be a little bit choppy here as we're in the visiting coaches.
Kind of like Texas's fourth down attempts.
Yeah, kind of like Texas' fourth down attempts. We're in the visiting coaches box to let you guys know where we're taking this. So maybe, Chip, I don't want to accuse the Horns of engagement, but maybe if we were in the home coaches box, maybe we'd be a little bit better. I'll quickly finish talking about so you can pick up where you left off. I don't think it's anything else. This offense is at its most lethal, Chip, when Jaden Blue is a factor in the game. And a career high was above 46, I believe, on the ground for Jaden Blue. For him to be able to have that
10.4 yards a carry. Of course, a 77-yard touchdown run will help that average.
But just allegedly at that point, because that's the type of home run ability that I talk about in the Chip. Go ahead and mute yourself really quick. That's one thing we did when we do that pre-show, but as Chip hopped back on, didn't mute him. Thank you, UT Parking, for alerting us of that. Jaden Blue's ability, the home run ability, Chip, I think it's something that provides a different dynamic, a needed dynamic to this Texas offense. It's one thing to get Contravian Wisner and to get a run game overall. It's certainly something that Texas has needed throughout the year. But I think, Chip, I'll pass it back to you so you can kind of pick up where you were going there. But Texas's offense, when they have both backs, kind of that thunder and lightning. And we'll see what happens with Contravian Wisner because Steve Sarkisian mentioned he got banged up a little bit. I'm sure nothing that 10 days won't fix as far as his ability there. But Jaden Blue brings a unique and a needed dynamic to this offense. I'll have more on that in a second. Chip, go ahead and pick back up where you were going.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is who I think Steve Sarkisian believed his team was going to be against Georgia. And I said coming into this game that Clemson reminded me of Texas A&M, that I thought Texas would be able to run the ball. I said in our live updates thread before the game, I thought Texas would run it close to 50 times. They ran it 48 times, 292 yards, 6.1 a carry. And thank goodness, because, they were unbelievable moving the football between the 20s once again. And then, those 3 fourth down attempts that failed, and the failure to get into the end zone after having first and goal from the 5 in the third quarter allowed, Clemson, Cade Klubnik specifically, and he got hot with dimes. I mean, he was throwing darts. They were going after Manny Muhammad with TJ Moore with success. They had a 29-yard pass to Moore against Muhammad, and followed by a 30-yard pass. Got them right into scoring range. Like I said, back-to-back touchdown drives by Clemson. And really, it was excellent play by Cade Klubnik that, it's hard to nitpick when you've got blanket coverage and he's dropping dimes in the bucket. But, that ability to run the football, Eric, ultimately allowed Texas to play complementary football, because even with the failed fourth downs, it was deep in Clemson territory, so that, you're not putting your defense in a bad spot. You're not giving a short field. You're giving a full field.
Yeah.
Even though it did allow Clemson to get back in the game. But I thought Wisner and Blue were outstanding. Quinn Ewers had a big 11-yard run on 3rd and 3 that extended the touchdown drive to the Gunner Helm touchdown pass. So I thought, kind of kudos across the board, except for maybe Steve Sarkisian's ability to call the right plays and the short yardage situations. They brought Arch Manning in. It wasn't pretty. The last fourth down attempt, Arch fumbled the snap, lost 3 yards. So they've got some things to clean up, but overall, that running game, 48 carries, 292 yards rushing against a Clemson defense. And Quinn Ewers really was outstanding in the first half when he was 11 of 14, got them that lead of 28-10. In the second half, I'm not going to put those failed fourth downs on him. Those were short yardage runs. Eric, what did you think of the ability to run it between the 20s and then bogging down in those short yardage situations?
First off, for answer that, Chip, appreciate Charlie saying howdy from Dublin, Texas. Thank you for watching the live stream. Daniel, who said he loves the live feed. Way to go, guys. So thank you. We greatly appreciate that. And UT Parking as well for watching and making sure that one of us is muted when we're doing this. Thank you, as always. Chip, to your point, you asked me about the offense between the 20s and kind of some of the issues there. Listen, I've said this, whether it's on the flagship, whether it's on instant reaction, we've written about it, right? Two things can be true, right? The red zone, not to say that it doesn't matter, but if you're getting the home run play, right, whether that's TD passes from Quinn Ewers to Gunner Helm, or you're getting, the 2 runs by Jaden Blue, those came outside the red zone. That's great. I don't think you can make a living that way, Chip. I think especially in the college football playoff, as you're facing better teams, you're going to have at least whatever Texas's version of peak red zone efficiency is. So you do want to see that get cleaned up, kind of improve. But all things considered, I'm not going to necessarily nitpick on it as a whole, only because I think when you have those issues, and like I said, I've talked about it a ton, this isn't just a 4-game trend or, a 6-game trend or a 2-game deal, right? This is a 2-year deal that Texas has had some struggles when you get in the red zone, or even as we saw against Georgia, the high red, right? You can't ignore it. But Chip, I will say this, and I'm not trying to, throw cold water on your question. I think I just was more encouraged by some of the ancillary things that came out of this game, i.e., and I know you'll talk about it here in a second, but when Cam Williams goes down and Trevor Gooseby has to step in, when Jake Majors goes down, Hayden Connor has to switch over to center, Cole Hudson stepping in at right guard. Those things give me just a measure of encouragement that, hey, despite the adversity, Texas can find ways to put forth productive offense. So I'm not, dismissing the question, because it's a valid question. It's something that, quite frankly, is something Texas has tried to address, as we said, for the better part of 2 seasons. And it's almost like I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth, Chip, in one sense. If you have a meltdown like you do against Oklahoma last year, right? 4 plays and you can't punch it in, that's one thing. If you have a situation like 2 weeks ago against Georgia, where you're having to settle for 6 field goals, right? Because you're having some inefficiencies in the high red, that's one thing. However, I do think you can overcome those things with just really efficient and really, I shouldn't say efficient, but effective execution on offense, as you saw with some of the home run plays from Jaden Blue and others, Chip.
Yeah. I think this was a big step in the right direction.
Yeah.
And really, I think, zeroing in on what Quinn Ewers did in that first half, because let's be honest, the interception that he gets blamed for was a drop by DeAndre Moore, goes right through his hands, bounces off his chest right into the hands of RJ Mickens of Clemson. Should have been a catch by DeAndre Moore. So you hate to see him get pinned with that interception. But I thought Quinn really had good energy today. Thought he was making really good decisions. Like I said, 11 of 14, gets Texas that big lead, 28-10, and then Clemson claws its way back. Maybe Texas should have just kept running the football because they did have a couple drives that stalled there in the second half. But Eric, I'll let you, before we move on to the defense. Gunner Helm. I mean, come on, this is your guy, Gunner Helm. What a story. I mean, this guy was a second lowest ranked recruit in the 2021 recruiting class. Only the punter, Isaac Pearson, who's not even here anymore, was lower ranked than Gunner Helm. And tonight he breaks Jatavian Sanders' single season receptions record and single season tight end receiving yards record. And he's not done yet, kids. He's now got 55 receptions for 688 yards, 6 touchdowns. And of course, they're going off to Atlanta, to the Peach Bowl, to take on Arizona State. But Gunner Helm, Eric, he's Quinn Ewers' security blanket, all 6'5" of them, as he said. And he did it again tonight.
Yeah, Chip, listen, Gunner Helm is just a testament to hard work, putting your head down, really believing in yourself. And listen, I don't want to hit you guys with all the cliches, but I think I'd be remiss if I didn't say it, right? In today's college football era, where the portal is an option, and guys kind of bounce around. You see guys on 4 teams in 4 years and all these things. Gunner Helm said, no, I want to stick it out here at Texas. I want to find a way to make an impact here at Texas. To quote Gunner Helm, I'm going to bust my ass to do everything I have to do to make it work here at Texas. And again, 2 things can be true. And Gunner, if you spend any time around him, Gunner never really takes off that game face. Chip, you were there for Gunner's availability, right? Gunner got asked a couple questions. Not to say that they were softballs. They're a little lighthearted, right? And Gunner doesn't take the game face off. When he was asked about breaking the single season record. Chip, did you ask him that question? Yeah, I think you asked him that question. What did Gunner Helm say? He said, someone predicted me to have 9 receptions. Didn't even revel in the fact that, hey, this is a really noteworthy achievement for a kid who's now etched his name in Longhorn history with some pretty, substantial tight ends in the history of this program. Said, no, all he's thinking about is it's that Michael Jordan factor, right? You're not worried about the success. It's about who's that clown who predicted that I'd only have 9 receptions. I'm not sure who that person is. Because again, if you've ever read my coverage, I've been as big as a fan of Gunner Helm as anybody, right? But no, just a tremendous day for him, a tremendous season for him. And Chip, again, let's not understate this by any stretch of imagination. Gunner Helm is a valuable piece in this offense. He is Quinn Ewers' safety blanket, Chip. How many times do you see Gunner just work the middle of the defense? Gunner talked about one of the things that they preach is for, receivers in the tight end position to be able to cross the face of the safety, right? So, I guess to break that down for audience, someone who may not know, if that safety's coming down, make sure you're coming in front of them, to kind of give that quarterback something to look at, quarterback a target to hit. That's been a huge thing for Quinn Ewers in this offense this year. And especially as Quinn is starting to find his footing again and look healthy, Chip, Gunner Helm is going to be a big factor in Texas's college football playoff hopes now and going forward.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, what a great story. I mean, on a team with all these super speed guys.
Yeah.
Isaiah Bond, Silas Bolden, Matthew Golden, Ryan Wingo. There's big Gunner Helm, the former 3-star recruit out of Colorado. So fantastic story there tonight. Congratulations to Gunner Helm. And as you mentioned, Eric, they did have to shuffle the offensive line. Cam Williams, the right tackle, goes out with a knee injury. It looked bad, but he did come back in for a play. Then he went out, and it sounded like they're going to get an MRI on that knee. Jake Majors was hit and landed awkwardly on an illegal blindside block on that interception that happened on the tipped ball. And we don't want to speculate because they didn't give out the injury, but he looked like the lights were out for a minute. And they said he could have come back in. They chose not to put Jake Majors back in. So they had to shuffle. They moved Hayden Connor from left guard to center. They moved Cole Hudson in at left guard, and Trevor Gooseby came in at right tackle after, of course, playing left tackle for Kelvin Banks while he recovered from an ankle injury the last couple games. So the fact that Texas, was still able to move the football shows that depth, Eric, that Steve Sarkisian referenced when asked on Thursday, why is this team equipped to win a national championship? He said, we have the depth. We've got guys to bring in when guys go out. And we saw that tonight.
No, Chip, that to me, and that's actually the second piece I'm getting ready to write over on the site. You nailed it, right? If there's any reason, if you're a Texas fan, that you should have confidence in this team moving forward, I think you saw some of it. Like, let's take it in totality for a second, right? First off, Clemson goes down. Only the second time this year, Chip, that a team has had an opening drive touchdown against this defense. They go 75 yards. The only other time this year was against Vandy, and that came off of an interception, which Vandy had a short field and scored a touchdown, right? So not standard operating procedure for Texas's defense. The offense responds, gets only their fourth opening drive touchdown of the season, their first in 8 quarters. So they respond. Then you talked about it, the injuries on the offensive line, and that was something that Steve Sarkisian was asked about, the ability to cross-train some of these guys. And listen, Kyle Flood's one of the best offensive line coaches in the nation. Steve Sarkisian raves about him. But again, you talk about the ability of Trevor Gooseby, Chip. I mean, to step in, we probably aren't talking about him enough. And this is an instant reaction, so we won't go an hour. Maybe we'll save some of that for the flagship this week. But for a kid like him to step in again, cold, Chip, like that's the thing I think, the average fan, the average person, if you've never played offensive line, that includes me, you can't really fully grasp. To step in cold against a really talented Clemson team, a talented Clemson defensive front, that's huge. You talked about the ability of Hayden Connor to shuffle over and play center. You get those things. And then let's broaden it out. This defense, okay, they give up 24 points. I mean, it's you can't expect Texas' defense to perform and only allow 10 points all season. There's a reason why these teams are in the playoff. Cade Klubnik is a hell of a quarterback. But the resiliency, again, Chip, I'll pass it back to you on this. Those goal line stuffs, Chip, it is not easy. I know Texas's defense has set a hell of a standard. It is not easy to stuff a team and hold them from getting 1 yard or 2 yard down there on that goal line. So as we lost Chip again, the apologies for the Wi-Fi issues here, but I'll just finish that point. Vernon Broughton, Alfred Collins, Chip's guy, he'll talk about this. Bill Norton, there's a reason why Steve Sarkisian talked about big humans, Chip, as he'll be back on here in a second. To get someone 6'5", 6'6", 335 pounds, he pays off a factor like that. Those things, to me, again, if you're a Texas fan, give you confidence, give you hope. You take a look at some of the plays behind the line of scrimmage, 7 tackles for loss. As I mentioned, Bill Norton leading the way with a tackle and a half for loss. He gets a big sack as well. So that certainly helps overall. But yeah, that should give you all the reason in the world to have confidence is the depth in this team. Even let's consider this factor. Isaiah Bond didn't play tonight, right? But you get a step in from, Silas Bolden, Ryan Wingo, Matt Golden. And to kind of come back to a point Chip was making earlier, because I think we can talk about this while Chip is getting himself back on. Quinn Ewers, his performance tonight, it's probably not going to look the best, when juxtaposed to Cade Klubnik, 17 of 24, 202 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 pick. As Chip said, the pick was a play that the ball bounced off the hands of DeAndre Moore and went in the hands of Mickens. But I think, and again, I'm not saying it's a perfect game. I'm not saying it's Quinn Ewers against Alabama 2 years ago or last season. I'm not saying it's Quinn Ewers against Michigan. But what I am saying is I think this is the best, while not perfect, two things can be true, but I think this is the best that Quinn Ewers has looked since the Florida game. Arkansas was a little bit pedestrian, had some throws that's like, man, you really want to see Quinn hit that. Georgia had a couple throws. Even tonight, there was a third down pass to Matt Golden. That Matt Golden's be credited with a drop, and sure, it hits your hands, but Matt did have to, significantly turn behind him to try to make that catch. So, there were some balls that Quinn would want to have back, but he also give him credit. I think there was a pass there to Ryan Wingo where it looked like it could have been some pass interference. It looked like Wingo kind of dropped it, but I think Quinn did a great job of dropping the ball in there as well. So all things considered, it's all of those things that I think give you confidence in Texas going forward. As Chip is getting himself back, I'll answer Daniel's question here. He says, question, do we have the running game to get us to the end? Is Quinn mobile enough? I'll take the back half of that first. I think Quinn, as that ankle gets better, he certainly is looking more mobile. He scrambled. Chip references earlier when he was on, and he'll get back on here in a second, that he had the 11-yard scramble for a first down. Those are things that type of ability for Quinn to use his legs was something that we saw, whether it was hesitancy or he just couldn't do it, or whether it was the abdominal injury, maybe want to protect that, or the ankle. You weren't seeing enough of that in the middle of the season from Quinn Ewers. I think it was one of those things that you start to see towards the end of the year, and most specifically Texas A&M, but you weren't seeing it during the middle of the year. So is Quinn mobile enough? It looks like he's getting there. And then to the first part of your question, does Texas have the run game to get us to the end? Well, I think tonight was a great example of it, right? If Texas can block it the way they did, and there's going to be a step up in competition. Arizona State only allows 125 yards per game on the ground. I believe they're 25th or 26th in the nation in rushing yards allowed per game. So, the Peach Bowl is going to be a significant step up in competition in terms of the run defense. But I do think Texas, if they're committed to it, the 148 yards I believe Texas had in the first half, the most they've had all year in the first half. So if there's the commitment to the run game and Texas can block it well, I certainly think the run game is there. Chip, is still some tech issues there getting it going? It's not bringing it back up?
It is not bringing me back.
All right, so here's what we're going to do, right? Here's going to be the magic of this. Chip is going to slide his chair over, and we're going to be one screen, and Chip Brown is going to bring us home here. Chip, why don't you go and if you can't get it back up, just slide over into my shot so folks know you're here. We're friends. We're Horns247 friends. I'm going to get Chip in here, tight into this shot. He's going to talk to the mic because I'm still going. Chip, do you want to pick back up where you were going there?
Well, the defense is something that they give up the big chunk plays in the passing game, but when they had to have it, they were money down on the goal line in short yardage situations, stuffing Clemson. When they had to have it, and I thought it was totally appropriate that Michael Taft finishes up the game tonight with just a jarring hit on TJ Moore that separated him from the football and allowed Texas to kneel down, take a knee victory formation twice and be done with the Clemson Tigers. So, and when I asked Barron Sorrell, because as you mentioned, the Texas run defense is going to get tested in the Peach Bowl against Arizona State. Cam Scatterbo, his numbers don't say it, but he said it. He said he's the best running back in the nation. Barron Sorrell said, I'm looking forward to that challenge because I think a lot of people think they can run on us and they can't. And tonight, Clemson held under 100 yards rushing. And that's, oh my gosh, how many times does that happen this year? So, especially when it matters most. And I get it that Phil Maffa did not play outside of a couple carries there in the first quarter, but good heavens. They got guys who can come in and get it done. They had a couple of explosive runs But like I said, when it really, and that sounds terrible, I should never use those words together. But when it mattered most, they were able to lock down Clemson and Cade Klubnik. I mean, Big Bill Norton, Alfred Collins, and Vernon Broughton. Michael Taft was in on one of those goal line stops. Bill Norton, what a night for him. I mean, gets a 14-yard sack, strip sack, and then comes up with the huge 4th down stop on the goal line. They're going to miss these guys, Eric. I mean, they're going to miss Jermaine Lole, Bill Norton, Alfred Collins, Vernon Broughton. That's why Steve Sarkisian is so determined to win it this year. He knows he's got the guys, he's got the team, he's got the quarterback, and we're getting questions about the running game. The running game has been good against every team not named Georgia. Yeah. And I'm not sure that the Arch Manning package was all that effective. That needs some tweaking, but look, this is a team that rallies when it has to, and they did it again tonight.
So, Chip, here's what we're going to do. We're not going to test fate, okay? So I'm going to give my final thoughts, and then I'm going to give it back to you for helmet stickers and final thoughts, because the Wi-Fi gods are not our friends. So we're not going to test fate and make sure that my feed doesn't go out. So I'm going to quickly get into kind of my final takeaway. Again, like I talked about, wrote about Jaden Blue, but the overarching takeaway, which I kind of talked about when you were off screen for a minute, is the depth of Texas and the resiliency of Texas. In my mind, Chip, I think that is encouraging going forward. Listen, the level of competition is only going to increase as they head to Atlanta to face Arizona State. A surprising Arizona State team, yes, but they got there for a reason. They got there for a reason, and this is going to be a matchup. It just means more in the SEC. Well, Texas is going to have an opportunity to show that they are an SEC team, and they're going to take on the top of the cream of the crop from the Big 12, and we'll see what happens. But I think if you're a Texas fan, you have to feel confident on this performance. Still some things to clean up. I'm not going to deny that. But against, and for all the people who said, oh, well, Texas hasn't done it against, this and that, and they faced Georgia and fell flat. Well, they just took out the ACC champion, Clemson Tigers, Chip. So we won't test the Wi-Fi gods any further. Why don't you go ahead and bring us home before something else happens? Yeah,
I mean, in terms of helmet stickers, Quinn Ewers for sure, Gunner Helm, Jaden Blue, Quintravian Wisner, Ethan Burke, who, had a sack of his old mate, Cade Klubnik. They were on that Austin Westlake 2020 6A state championship team. Burke had 1.5 tackles for loss. Just, solid performances. Michael Taft, obviously the goal line defense. But Eric, I'm going to be very intrigued to see how many Texas fans make the trip to the Peach Bowl, because if Texas is to get to the national championship, they'd go back to Atlanta. Yeah. And I know for a fact, Texas season ticket holders requested the Cotton Bowl semifinal more than they requested the Peach Bowl quarterfinal. So this could be interesting. How many Arizona State fans are going to make the trip across the country to Atlanta? I would imagine quite a few. And Texas fans, they're trying to budget this thing. So we'll see. You and I will be there. There's no doubt about it. And we'll have all the coverage for you at horns247.com. I believe we still have a 50% off promo going for annual membership. So talk about a Christmas gift to yourself. If you're not a member at Horns247, you're going to be getting in for like $3 a month. Are you kidding me? The #1 recruiting class. They still have a ton of recruiting to do in the portal. And of course, they're trying to win a national championship. They are one game closer to that goal. So we'll be over at Horns247 after we sign off here. So thanks everybody for tuning in. For Eric Henry, I'm Chip Brown. We'll see you over at Horns247.com. Please like and subscribe the Horns247 YouTube channel, and have a very Merry Christmas. Stay safe and keep the faith.